Hi everyone! Today we have the honor of speaking with a remarkable handbag designer, Miss Emily Blumenthal. Emily sold her handbags in top US retail stores such as Bloomingdale's, Macy's, and Dillard's. She is the author of the best-selling book Handbag Designer 101, a Bible for aspiring handbag designers, teaching them how to turn their hobby of handbag design into a successful business. Her decades of expertise have earned her the title of the Handbag Fairy Godmother by InStyle magazine and the New York Times. Hello, Emily. It's a pleasure to have you here with us today. So please tell me, how did you get into the fashion business and what motivated you to become a handbag designer?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I appreciate that you found me through the USPTO, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Organization. That is probably my favorite American organization, so now yours is now my favorite global one, so I'm thrilled to have crossed over. So go you for finding me, and I'm excited to be here, so there's that. What prompted me to get into fashion? I think being in New York, number one, it's kind of the default. If you're in LA, everybody feels like they need to be in TV or films or movies. Here, it's that you have to start in fashion and go from there. And I was going to work, going to school, and going out, and saw how come no one created a little handbag to hold on to when you go out. And for no particular reason, I had this gut instinct to patent the silhouette, thinking that it was unique enough that it should be protected. And that is the beginning of my handbag lore, if that's enough, because I know we're on a time crunch.
Of course, Emily. Well, as you know, I'm a fashion enthusiast myself, and I find your story particularly inspiring. I would like to know more about how you got your handbag featured in the famous TV show Sex and the City.
Oh boy. Well, I think as I tell all designers and small businesses, and what I tell my students at FIT, where I'm a professor of entrepreneurship, research is free, doing your homework is free, and people love to outsource and pay people to do things for them. But if you're starting a brand or a business, let alone trying to protect your IP, your intellectual property, it's on you to do the homework and the research and understand the landscape and recognize where these opportunities are. And Sex and the City at the time was obviously, and I think still is, the top show where you can get product placement, which will then convert to sales, recognition, and press. And there were two costume designers at the time, and I was at a fashion launch party, and I was keeping tabs of where they would be. And to my luck, one of the costume designers was there. And once again, I'd love a throwback to my 20s, because again, that's where it makes sense. But after the red drink, the blue drink, and then the purple drink, which was those two together, I said, screw this, I'm going to go show her my bag, and then proceeded to dance alone in front of her wearing it. Now, perhaps that's not the best way, but it was enough to get her attention and for her to say, that's a cool bag you have. Can I see it? Which then I proceeded to explain to her the why of what the product was, how it works, what the benefits are, knowing full well who she is. Perhaps she didn't know that I knew, but clearly everybody did. And she said, follow up with me. I work on this show. And I said, oh, do you now? And I think, again, as a result of being responsible and understanding the essence of how to follow up and being persistent without crossing over to apologize for this, for being a pain in the ass, because it could go one way or the other. My timing was right. My follow-up was right, and got it into her hands, which led to the run through, which is, if anyone's seen Devil Wears Prada, that's when everybody reviews the products to go in the magazine. But TV shows and so forth do the same thing to review the products that are going to go in the show. And Sarah Jessica Parker selected it herself, and there you have it.
Wow, that must have been such a dream to have Sarah Jessica Parker selected. And this goes to show that you have to be bold when following your dreams. Well, as you've mentioned, we've met at an event organized by the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office, and I was really pleased to hear you speak about the role of intellectual property within the fashion industry, but more specifically within the handbag business. And I would like to hear more about your IP story and how you used intellectual property to bring success within your business?
Well, I thank you for that question. It's probably one of my favorite ones. Now, I'd like to, having done this long enough, I'd like to throw in a disclaimer that just because you pay a lot of money for a patent doesn't necessarily mean anything's going to happen with it. And I think one of the cautionary tales of people hiring lawyers and doing their research, or not doing, excuse me, enough research, is assuming just because they protect their bag, whether it's a utility patent, which is just for the functionality, or the design just for how it looks, in the loosest terms, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to convert to a license where someone will pay you a rental fee for those properties. You have to do your homework, you have to do your research, you truly have to go back into the archives and really, really do a deep dive to see if it's something worth protecting, if it hasn't already been done, if it's been done already, perhaps if it's not on the market, chances are the barriers to entry were too high. So I just want to give a disclaimer before anybody goes about getting IP, getting that kind of protection. That said, um, I had this notion and did as much research as the internet would have allowed back in 2002, where most people probably weren't born who are listening to this. I think it's one of those things that I recognize that the silhouette was unique enough, having done enough research, it wasn't out on the market, and knowing that because at this point it was perceived as a handbag, but now 20 years past, I know and am fully aware that it was really more of a solution item that happened to be a handbag. So all of that packaged into years and years of doing the dog and pony show of explaining how it is, how it works, doing videos, going onto shopping channels, and realizing that it would only sell without me being there because there was no amount of cards or visuals that would help it sell without me being there. It allowed me to get to where I am. It allowed me to go as far as I could within handbags and make me into this expert. But in terms of becoming a viable brand within the competitive landscape, it never went that far. It did for me, but not the product itself. So I think I'm a huge advocate of doing research. I'm a huge advocate of protection. I just always like to tell people do your homework before to see if it's worth the investment, because a lot of times it just isn't.
So definitely do your research, take risks, and be bold. That's what our handbag designers, all the handbag designers that are watching this video should remember. If you would have one piece of advice for designers, what would it be?
Um, Go to the archives and go back in history. Whatever country you're from, I think every country has a very unique history in terms of their relationship with handbags. And to me, I think that's the biggest opportunity and probably the most fascinating chance to bring something to market that hasn't been touched in perhaps almost 100 years. And, at least in the US, I can't speak to it in other countries, there are patents that go back to handbag patents, as far as I can find, go back to the late 1880s, even upwards to the 1930s, where you can find where the evolution of women's handbags and what they looked like, and the silhouettes and their construction. And they're so special and so unique. And I think to me, that is the biggest opportunity. And if you go back and look in terms of where it says the patent, the fantastic thing about it is that they are all expired. And it is up to you. You can use those designs. No one's going to come after you. I think it's safe. I think it's rich. And I think it tells a really good story, because you're only as good as the story you can tell to bring those eyeballs and to truly say that this was inspired by, without apologizing, from the time when handbags and women and the Industrial Revolution in my particular country came to be. And that, even reflecting on the imagery and the pictures, because people didn't start recording visuals when the camera started coming out till the early 1920s. So you're actually able to find pictures of what those bags look like, in addition to the artwork that is part of the patent itself. So to me, that is probably the biggest recommendation. So if you're stuck or want to start something and have the means or don't even have the means yet, I would go back to the archives. You know, people say in fashion, go back to the archives, and they're talking about something that happened in the 80s. At that point, people still call that vintage. I think that's crazy. Go back 100 years, 90 years. Look what happened before World War II, where people had limited resources. That is where, in my opinion, you should check to get inspiration and get ideas that will really, really pick up on what people are looking for today.
Well, that's an amazing piece of advice, Emily. As always, you always give great advice for other designers. And like we all say, fashion comes back in style. It's a cycle. So thank you. Thank you so much for all the insights that you've shared with us today. It was a pleasure to have you here, and I really hope to see you soon.
It's so much fun. I love talking about this. And thank you so much for having me.
It was our pleasure. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Emily. For more episodes like this one, please subscribe to WIPO's YouTube channel to get notifications of other exciting IP stories of innovators and creators from around the globe. Until next time.